Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of our How Do You Hire Staff and Staff Guide. Last time we left off looking at creating different staff positions that we might need, discussing the different staff positions, what they do. Today in this episode, we're actually going to be looking at the kind of requirements of a moderator, what we need from a moderator, what makes a good moderator, and what, demographics and specifications such as age, specific time zones, how long they've been in the server, etc. How they make a great staff member for your community. So we're actually going to continue on with making the actual application form and looking at the correct application form in a way that's going to address all these criteria, getting the user to answer different questions about their moderation experience and how they can benefit the server, as well as collecting general information from them. I always like to start off by making a section, so we can click this button down here, and I like to call this, personal information. And essentially this is just going to be demographics about the user. Alright, there we go. So we've got that in now. We can press plus for a question, and I'm going to put down name, or you can put down real name, or it's up to you if you really ask it. Put a required on just to make sure that people actually answer it. We'll get rid of this one quickly just because we don't need it. Alright, so we've got name down there, and I'll say first name only. So we've got our first name there. Next up, we're going to want Discord username, and we actually want to do a bit of validation because we know Discord username has a hashtag in it, but some people will just put the first part of their Discord username and not the full thing in, so we have to be careful about that. The way we can put to make sure that people put the correct username in is we can click the three dots here, go response validation, and we're going to change from number to text contains a hashtag there, and then if it doesn't include a hashtag, what we'll say is make sure you include the hashtag and number art, and this will essentially ensure that people enter their full Discord username and not just the starting part. We'll also put Discord ID because sometimes people change the username. Discord ID is just good to have to also validate that they're both the same, and then we can also put response validation as a number, and we'll just say is number. So if it's not a number, we'll say this doesn't look like an ID. We'll also put age because that's always good to know, because remember we have our 14 years of age requirement, so we'll put age in there, require that. Also make it a number, but we're just going to leave it as is number, not grade to them, because if people don't read this part and they put their real age in as 13 or something, if we say you gotta be over 14, some people make up and say they're 14 when they're actually not. Put another custom error message in there. We'll also put country or time zone, and we'll just do a short answer again. You could also do multiple choice, so you could put different time zones in, but for the most part short answer is just gonna be easiest. So that's kind of all the information we need to know about the actual person we're hiring. We don't really need to know much else unless a paid role where you have to have KYC, which is know your customer, or you have to do identity verification stuff. So now we're going to be onto moderation experience. Well, before that actually, we'll talk about your server, more so their time in the server. So your participation in our server. Alright, we'll just put a comment in there as well. So in this section, we're essentially going to be looking at, Me6 ranking, how long they've been in the server, and messages sent, what they like about the server. It's essentially just going to be so we know they're active, they know about the server. So we'll first start off with this question is going to essentially pick their brain and ask them to talk about what they think the server is about and what the community is about, because if they've been in the community long enough, they should know what the community is meant to be about. Next up, we'll do what's your Me6 rank, and we'll actually put a description here because sometimes people don't know how to get their Me6 rank. We'll say use -rank in the bot commands channel, and this will essentially just tell them what their rank is in the server. Use in the bot command channel. This will essentially just make sure they've been in the server for the correct amount of time, which is 30 days as per our requirements at the top here. We also might want to add a question about how many messages are sent in the server. Those are a bit more tedious, don't matter too much because we can look at that ourselves when we're going through the actual applications. Next up, we're going to be talking about their moderation experience. So your past moderation experience. I won't put a description here, it's pretty self-explanatory. First off, we'll put in what servers have you previously moderated. We'll just get them to kind of list a few servers that they've moderated, and I'll get them to include member count as well. Please include these servers member counts. And then I might just include another question about what is the job of a moderator. And this is where you're going to really understand the most about what sort of moderator they are by asking them what they actually think the job of a moderator is. Because people who say, to ban people, to, have power over the server, those are the people you kind of want to stay away from. You want to look for people who actually care about the community, care about the members, and want to engage with the members as well. You don't want people who are just going for the power, because then they become more and more toxic, and power hungry is not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's kind of quite a good thing because it motivates people to work on the community more. But I think there's also a toxic side to it where you have to be careful that you're not hiring people who just want the role, to look better than everyone else. You really want people who care about the community. It's a bit like, a police officer. Their role is not just to arrest people, it's also to look after the community. Moving on, now that we've got your past moderation experience, you may want to include some like yes or no questions. So we could just do one. Let's say, would you ban someone for sending racist slurs? And we can say yes or no. Yes, no. And depending, if they've read your rules, depending on what the rules say, you can adjust them to fit your rules. And then we'll also send put another one. You ban someone for DM advertising. If you don't want DM advertising, that's where someone sends a link to another server in your direct messages without asking for it. So they bypass the server in a way. I'll put that as required as well. So now that that's all kind of done, they'll be able to click like a submit button. So because we've got this now, we're actually going to look at a bit more of the design section. So we've got a few tools up the top here. We'll go customize theme, pick a nice color, Merriweather's a good font. Alright, so that's our theming done because I changed the background color like that. Okay, we'll go to settings as well now. So we'll collect people's emails because it's always important to have someone's email in case missing in action or something. You can just email them. Send a copy, up to you. Editing is always a good one if they want to, they make the application but then they want it later, they can. Ignore this because you won't see this on your personal. We can add these things as well, but they're really just more if you have a longer form. These two. We can add a confirmation message saying your application has been submitted. It's back to you within 7 days. We won't display this. And we can also set defaults, so collecting emails and they require. So now that we've done the settings, we'll go to responses. So we're accepting responses. We can download responses. We can select the response destinations. If you want to make a spreadsheet or something like that to view them all in, you can also do that. If you want to you can actually set up a webhook. When a new form comes in, we can send it over to Discord using our script editor. There's actually a Google form to Discord. Yeah, it's this one. You can I'll put this link in the description. You can just follow these steps. So in the next episode, we're going to look a bit more at how we can actually find people to fill out our form because, we've made the form, but what do we do with it now? So we're going to look at places we can advertise it. We're going to look at how we can get members in our community to apply for stuff. And essentially we're just, looking at how we can market our staff positions to make it more appealable to a bigger audience. I hope you enjoyed this episode of our staff guide. Remember, subscribe, leave us likes, and we'll see you in the next episode.